All right, family. So welcome to this training, this self-realization training called the universe, right? There's an emphasis on the you part because that's what's most important to you, right? So what's most important to me is me, what's most important to you is you, and so on for every single person, right? A lot of us, especially I see a lot of you guys that are on here, we're part of a community, right? Where we're able to come in here just like a sponge, right? Like we see people doing something that's working for them, right? And we want to get involved and we want to kind of find our own place within that, right? And find our own skill sets and develop ourselves to be able to do whatever these guys are doing that's working. Right now, what's important with the you part in the universe is like you have to make sure that you're always aware of why you're here, right? Or even if you're not in the community, there's some people on here that are not in the trading community, but everybody has goals, right? So what is it that you want, right? We all know, we all understand that we create our own reality, right? Your reality, like the life you're living, is only like the projection of your thoughts, right? And your spiritual alignment and that kind of thing. The way you can think about it is the like picture a movie theater, right? We're seeing the picture on the projector, like on the screen, but that's not reality. Like the reality is a projector in the back that's causing that picture. You feel me? So think of your thoughts, think of your habits, your perceptions of everything as that projector, right? And the life you're seeing is only that projection, right? So that's important. So anything anything in the world doesn't have meaning. Only a human can, animals can do this as well, with the faculty of perception. But anything you might look at, any person you might come across, any situation you might come across, is really up to you how you decide to perceive that. You know what I mean? So like if somebody, let's just say you're at work and somebody comes in the door, you're already perceiving something, right? A lot of it has to do with the physical appearance, a lot of it has to do with their energy. But what matters most as far as like how the interaction is going to go is you, right? Is kind of like what kind of day are you having? What kind of thoughts do you live inside of constantly, right? So every aspect of your reality is created by you, right? So you have to understand that. That's why it's called the universe, right? So with this training, guys, I want everybody to kind of just understand a little bit better who you really are and what you really want, right? This is not for me. Like I'm not doing this to get anything out of it for my sake personally, right? This is this is something that is made with the intention of truly helping you out. You know what I mean? So as we go through this presentation, through this worksheet that we're going to go through together, just keep you in mind, right? What is it that you really want, right? And we already know that that's what's going to create your reality. So I'm going to get started with it. I'm going to tell you guys just a little bit about me because there's some people on here that don't get to see me every Sunday. I know a lot of you already very familiar with me. I start the week off with you guys and make sure we're starting the week inside the markets correctly. Now, this is a little bit of a different story. Like I want you guys to start the year correctly. And I want you guys to have an amazing year, right? Whatever that means to who? You, right? So a little bit about me. My name is Raf. I've been trading for a little over 3 years, right? So when I came into this space, it was a blessing that I didn't even know I needed. You feel me? Like I knew I needed, some sort of skill set. I knew I wanted to, make my own money, be my own boss at a certain point. But what I didn't know is everything else that came with it, right? So after after trading for 3+ years, and this is something that you'll hear at the beginning, right? Is like, and I'm using trading as an example, guys. So just kind of think of whatever field you're in and use that. But for example, for me, what I focus on is my trading, right? So with trading, this is something you'll hear when you come in, is that the markets are not really what's going to determine your results, right? Obviously, the markets are volatile, they go up and down, and we can make money in both directions. But the main factor is not you, is not your MetaTrader, is not your trading view, is not your trade ideas. The main factor is you, right? So if you want to develop and if you want to see results in any sort of aspect in life, right? Whether it be the gym, whether it be how understanding of a person you are, how loving of a person you are, like all these different things, right? If you want to get better at anything, you have to develop as a person, right? So we hear when we come into something like trading is like, yo, like the only way to make more money is to become a better person, right? So you hear that and you're like, oh yeah, that's just one of the things that these people say, that's one of those things that sounds nice. But little did I know, until a little bit after, was that it's true, right? In order to see bigger results, in order to see, different results, you have to be a bigger and you have to be a different person, right? So through that process, right, you come across personal development. Obviously, we have, mentors that are able to guide us in the right direction and recommend things, cut the learning curve. But you learn through that process that, this is actually true. Like you have to become a better person in order to see results, right? So with trading, for example, it's like it's going to expose you to um a lot of your weaknesses, right? It's going to expose you to like your greed. It's going to expose you to fear. It's going to expose how patient you are. So those kinds of things are have nothing to do with the market, right? We've been, brought up and programmed for a certain way for as long as we've been alive, right? Before we were even conscious that it was going on, we've been, programmed, and it's hard to kind of step out of that program, right? It's hard to kind of step out of of that movie that you're living in from inside the movie. So it's kind of hard to break it, but you have to, want to seek those different results. You have to want to become that better person. And as long as you have that intention, and as long as you are taking it step by step. Obviously, we all see the vision, at, like that end goal. And if you don't yet, you're gonna be able to see that for yourself by the end of this call. So we don't see necessarily like every single step. Like let's just say it's 1,000-mile journey, right? We can't see the whole way. We can only see that step that's right in front of us, right? So as long as you have that intention, and as long as you're willing to take that next step, the path is going to reveal itself, right? You take that next step and then the next step appears, right? So that's the mentality you have to have with personal development. Is like, yo, I don't really know what it takes to become this person that I really want to be, but I know a book I can read. Maybe that book then, introduces you to another thought that you then have to, explore, or maybe, another book comes along the way. Every path is different, right? So you have to get started on the journey, and you have to be willing to take that step. But walking alone is not going to get you there, right? Every step you take is going to reveal something positive and something negative, and it's up to you to be able to kind of be aware of that, right? The lessons are endless, right? The best students are the ones that are learning when others think the learning has stopped, right? So from this Zoom call, not only can you learn, right, the content that I'm about to go over, but you can learn, like, look at the way I promoted this call, right? Look at the way this presentation was set up. Look at the way I introduced the call, right? Look at the type of voice that I'm speaking with. So all these different things are subtle things that are not written out for you, right? These are things you have to have that awareness of, and be able to, just be aware, and be able to implement these things, right? So all these are very subtle things, guys, that make like the world of difference, right? So let's get into the actual training here. I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint that I have. Well, it's not a PowerPoint, we're on AI now. We don't need Microsoft no more. But I'm about to get into it. Drop some 222s in the chat if you're ready. I'm ready to go. Honestly, my main thing is going to be to keep this under an hour, because I can go. As y'all can see, that was just the intro, but I'm gonna do my best, right? I respect you guys' time. Um, bet. Okay, cool. So let me pull this up for y'all. And thank you guys for your energy. I do appreciate it. Let's see. Can y'all drop some ones if you can see my screen? Should be the presentation here. I just want to make sure before I get into it. Okay, thank you guys. I appreciate it. So let's see here. All right, cool. So the name of the training, right, is called the universe. I already explained the emphasis on the you part, right? So make sure everything you're doing here is with you in mind. Like, don't worry about me. Don't worry about what your mentors might think. Don't worry about what your friends think. Like, literally focus on you, right? So the first thing I kind of want to get into is to help you understand the concept of you. Like, not even you personally, but just what is, like, when you look up the word you might get a definition in the dictionary, but after, a bunch of, self-development, a bunch of books, a bunch of, not it's not only personal development, guys. Like we always hear personal development. We always hear you got to work on your mindset. but there's four empires, right? And which I'm about to get into, but one of the very important empires is the soul set, right? It's not just a mindset. The soul set is a whole different part of you that you have to work on if you want to develop, right? Just the mental part, just reading and taking in information is not going to make any effect unless the soul part is in alignment, right? So we're going to learn about all that kind of stuff. But let's get into some, and this is not artificial intelligence. This is RAF intelligence right here. This is just kind of like what I've, put together. And I mentioned this to a couple people on the that were here early, is that like for example, this training here is I put it together originally to help myself, right? So I put this together because of all this information, all these things. If you guys are reading a lot, if you guys are doing a lot of personal development, but you're not putting it down on paper, it's going to be a little bit tougher for you to actually internalize things, right? You might understand, but you gotta, what is it, understand, you gotta really like embody what the things you're learning, or else it's just knowledge, right? Wisdom is applied knowledge, not just the accumulation of knowledge, right? So you want to make sure you're applying. So this was kind of me, okay, like how do I kind of like put in something physical all these thoughts that are in my mind, right? I already know like mind, body, soul. And this was just kind of for my own sake. Like, I just want to organize my thoughts, right? So I recommend you guys do that. Pull up Notion, pull up whatever. If it's on paper, like write something. Like what I've been doing a lot is like if I hear a YouTube video, right? And I hear an absolute bar, like I'll write it down in my notes and then I'll tweet it, right? The main important thing for me is the notes part. It's like I want to make sure that whatever I heard in their words, I'm able to then, pause the video and then go in and write down however I heard it. It might be exactly the way they said it, or it might be slightly different. I might write it down in a way that is just makes sense to me, has nothing to do with what they said. But just the fact that I put it down is going to help me, right? So then the second step is you share that, right? This is a good way for a lot of you guys to grow your brand, to grow just your confidence with your online presence and that kind of thing. Like just put things out, fam. You know what I mean? So this was just kind of me putting this together for myself, but then seeing, okay, this could benefit, other people. So let's get into it. So what is the concept of you, right? This is very important. Like this is probably the most important part of the call. So you are a spiritual being having a physical experience, right? So there's two ways you can look at the world. It's either mental first and then physical, or it's physical first and then mental, right? If you believe in a physical world first, you believe that, the universe was created out of a big bang and evolution happened, and then somehow we developed fire and hunting skills, and then at some point the consciousness came into being, right? That's one way to look at the world. Another way to look at the world is that the consciousness was there first, and that's what created everything physical that we see, right? So if you think about the laptop, the phone that you're on, if you look around and you see, your lamp, your phone, whatever, all these are physical objects that were what? They were a thought in somebody's head first, right? So this iPhone was a thought in Steve Jobs's mind way before he, started drawing it out on paper, way before he hired somebody to produce mock-ups, way before, the product was created and distributed. It was a thought inside of his head. And that's the same thing for any object, anything physical you might see, is it was a thought first, right? So that's the way I look at the universe, is the universe was a mental event first, right? It's up to you guys if you believe in God or not, right? Now, one thing you're not going to do is try to equate the universe with God, right? God created the universe, right? The universe is everything physical. It's the planets, it's me and you. Like that's God's creation, right? So you can't say, "Oh, I'm going to pray to the universe. Oh, I hope." Bro, the universe is the physical aspect that we're able to experience. But I believe that there was something that created this universe that we get to experience, right? So those are two different ways to look at the world. I believe that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, right? A lot of the time we tend to identify with our body. You're not your body, you're not your thoughts, which I'm about to get into. You're a soul, right? So, and I'll get into what the soul means too. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself just for the sake of time, but we're going to get a little bit more into that. You are a soul. Your soul is a part of you that cannot change. Okay. So your body can change, right? Your mental can change, right? Your thoughts can change. The soul is the part of you that has always been here and always will be here, right? So your soul, right? The person that you really are has been here way before like this lifetime, right? You've been through multiple different bodies, multiple different, aspects of life. Now we don't remember that, obviously. We only remember what this physical like this physical lifetime we can remember from, but your soul has been around forever. And your soul, fam, is connected to every, like, there's not like your soul, like the whole universe is power, like it's backed by a vibration called the spirit, right? So your soul is that fraction of the entire spirit that's in everything, right? So that's very important to understand. That's like kind of like a ground rule, is that you're not who you think you are, right? You're not this person. You're a part of everybody. We're all connected at that level, right? You are the observer of your thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. So whatever concept you have of yourself, whatever you think, right? You are not that. You're the observer of your thoughts. That was one of the major like breakthroughs that I can remember hearing, is like, you can close your eyes and be like, okay, I'm this person, this is my name, this is how old I am, this is where I come from. But the person speaking inside your head, the conversation you're having is not you, right? Your soul is the observer of you having that conversation, right? So that's like, that might take you a little bit, right? You might, get off this call and it might take you a little bit to really understand what I'm saying, but you are the observer of your thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. The thoughts that you're having inside your mind are dictating the physical part, right? They're going to dictate the physical experience you're having. The observer is not judging those thoughts. It's not perceiving those thoughts. It's not creating those thoughts. The observer is just the observer, right? It has nothing to do with whatever we're doing here, right? Our soul is never going to change, is never going to go anywhere. You'll be here forever, right? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of peace at night. You're a multidimensional being who has access to all dimensions of reality, not just the third, right? So there's 11 plus dimensions, fam. I don't know if y'all knew that. And I'm coming with a lot of heat right now. I don't know if this is like completely out the box for you guys. You guys think I'm crazy, but based off of, my knowledge and my experience, this seems to be true, right? So there's 11 dimensions, right? When we experience the world that we're experiencing, we experience the third dimension, the second dimension, and the first dimension, right? We can see a line on a piece of paper, right? That's the first. If you draw another line, given it a height and a width, then that's the second dimension. And then when you have a physical three-dimensional object, that's the third dimension, right? And those are anything at the third dimension or below, that's everything we can physically experience and physically manipulate, right? Now, the fourth dimension is your thoughts, right? So your thoughts, it's not like you can see them, but you can experience them, right? There's other dimensions like the fifth, where our souls are connected, that you have access to. A lot of us just don't have enough awareness to be able to access those higher dimensions, right? So like, I used this analogy a little bit ago. It's like, if you go to the doctor and he tells you that your spleen is infected or whatever, and you didn't even know you had a spleen, is there a way you can alter that reality and kind of fix that problem on your own? Like, you didn't even know it existed. You feel me? Like, if your car's messing up and you go to the mechanic, he tells you, hey, your spark plugs are burnt out. You didn't even know your car had spark plugs. There's no way you can alter that reality or fix that problem without first having that awareness, right? So we have access to the fourth, we have access to the fifth. There's ways to get access to like the higher dimensions, but it doesn't, it's like, the higher up you go, the more work it takes, right? Best way to get there is through meditation, right? Just transcendental meditation, focusing on nothing else but the breath, and having that intention to really be able to perceive those different realities, right? When you guys hear of people having experiences with like, mushrooms, DMT, that kind of thing, those substances will take you to those dimensions, right? It's not like it's a movie in your mind that you're just seeing because you took these drugs or whatever, or because you happen to reach that level of meditation. where you're seeing like, wow, it's all connected, right? And like, wow, everything's a lot more colorful, everything sacred geometry, like though that's reality, right? This computer, this phone, like this is just a projection of those realities of those higher dimensions, right? So we have access to those dimensions. It's up to you how, interesting that is to you, how important you might, consider that. But if you find that something worthwhile, ever since I came across this type of knowledge, one of my main goals, fam, is to be able to experience those higher realities. Is not even about the money for me. It's not even, and before I had these realizations, I had like very earthly, worldly goals, right? But one of my main goals is to get to know God. Like I want to tap in so much that I understand, like, the way it all really is, right? So maybe this is not the call for you if you don't find that type of stuff interesting. To me, there's nothing else like more worthwhile than to be able to really understand the truth, right? And when I say truth, fam, there's something can be true, but not be a truth, right? So the truth means something that cannot change. Like it's impossible for it to change. You'll hear in the Bible, you hear him say, God is a God that cannot lie, right? It's not that he won't lie. It's not that he shouldn't lie. It's not that he's not going to. It's that he can't lie. Like he's the truth. You can't change any aspect of the truth, right? So right now it's true that we're on this call together. Right now it's true that it's 7:36 p.m. wherever I'm at. But that's going to change in a minute, right? We're going to get off this call. So even though it's true right now, it's not the truth. The truth cannot change. You feel me? So that is something when I understood that is like, okay, so which things are truth, right? What is it that actually cannot change? Your soul is the truth. It's not going to go anywhere. It cannot change. When I found that out, it's like, bro, I need to do a lot more digging into this type of thing, right? I spend a lot of time obviously like studying my trading and that kind of stuff, and all these other things. But you get to a point where there's no more learning to be done with anything like that. If you do real estate, if you, sell cars, sell shoes, you get to a point where you're pretty competent at the fundamentals and the technical aspects of whatever it is you're doing. Now comes the you part, right? So I'm at that point where in order for me to develop, I have to, dig deeper for the truth. I have to kind of tap into these higher realities because the higher the reality is, the more you can influence the lower realities. Like the if you live like we're living in the third dimension, right? So picture you living in the third dimension with your physical body, being able to manipulate the second and the first dimension, but then having access to everything above you, right? So if you're only living in the physical world, you can only alter the third, the second, and the first dimension. But you're not going to be able to change your thoughts that easily. You're not going to be able to connect with another person on a deep level. You're not going to be able to, you know, manipulate those higher realities if you're stuck living in that third dimension. Okay, so that's my main goal is to be able to have access to those higher realities, have access to how they work in order to be able to manipulate, my experience, my thoughts, so then my physical reality can see the effects of that, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Um, you live in a universe where all possibilities already exist. You just have to tune into that frequency. This is very important, fam. So every single reality you can imagine, it's not that it can happen, it's that it already does. That person that you envision yourself and say, oh man, like I could see myself as a seven-figure trader. I could see myself living, at this type of house. I could see myself with this kind of family. It's not like you're just closing your eyes and just like imagining it. There's like every single reality you can think of already exists, right? Like if I were to make a mindset decision right now to do something completely different, that's a whole nother reality that I just stepped into, right? If I decide to keep doing the same thing, then I'm going to stay on the same one, right? So that person that you see yourself as, you got to understand that it already exists. Like, yeah, there's going to be some work to do to be able to act as that person would, to be able to, affect, the third dimension in the way that person would, but it already exists. Like in one mental decision right now, I can choose to be somebody completely different. Can we all agree? Like I can, whatever programming, whatever identities I have of myself right now, I could very easily just switch it and become somebody completely different. And it's not going to take years of work. It can happen right now. Now, for most of us, we're so programmed already that it's harder to get out of that reality, right? It's harder to be able to make that change because the way we've been thinking and the way we've been doing things, we think that, that person is, years away or a certain amount of money away or a certain amount of personal development away. We've all heard that you have to be that person first and then the results will come, right? So that's something that's important. All possibilities already exist. You just got to tune into that radio station. You are an abundant and limitless being, right? Like you have a right to have everything you want, right? Now, if there's things that you want that are, more selfish or, just more material, then God or whatever doesn't owe you anything, right? Like just because you pray that you want a Lamborghini doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? There's things you can do to get there, but the abundance that you have that birthright to means you have an abundance of love, you have an abundance of happiness, an abundance of joy, you have an abundance of anything that really really matters. You have that abundance and you are limitless, right? Like um, there's a story in the Bible that everybody knows called Adam and Eve, right? So when God created, man, he placed them in a beautiful garden. And he said, you two, I placed you guys in in this garden, and you can have any, you can eat from any tree, like you can have the fruit from any of these trees. Like, what is that? Is that abundance or is that lack? Right? That's abundance. He gave us that birthright and said, you guys have access to whatever you want. The only thing is there's one tree that you can't eat the fruit from, right? Now we're talking about lack, right? So he said, you guys can have whatever you want, just don't mess with the lack, right? Don't mess with the limitation. Don't This tree is a tree of limitation, it's the tree of lack. So if you ever do take a bite from that apple, then we're here, we're not as abundant as we should be, right? There's sin, there's all these things because we shifted our focus from the abundance to that one thing that we shouldn't have had, right? So just understand that you have a right to whatever you want as long as it's something that's in accordance with what the truth, right? The last thing here on this slide is that you don't have access problems, you have awareness problems. Like, sheesh, right? It's like a lot of us think that we're not where we want to be because we don't have access to a certain type of money. Like, oh, I'm not happy because I don't have $1 million. Or I don't have the house I want because my boss hasn't promoted me yet. Like, it's not that you don't have access. You have access to whatever you want. You just lack the awareness that you have that access. You feel me? Is like one way to look at it is like, oh, I'm not happy because I don't have this. You're missing the awareness piece that you can be happy at whatever moment you want just by making that decision to be happy, right? So you're abundant, you're limitless, and you don't have an access problem, you have an awareness problem. So there's things that you have access to right now. There's tools that you have on your phone that you just don't know how to use yet, that if you knew how to use them, you'd be making money or whatever your goal might be, right? You have access to the internet. Like, we're in a world right now, in an age where it's almost impossible to not make money. The only thing getting in the way of you being able to access that is your own awareness and your own identity of yourself, right? So that's the first slide, fam. I know I'm kind of going a little bit fast and talking about a lot of things here, literally all over the place, multiple dimensions and shit. I apologize. But let's get on to this next part. Everybody with me? Let me get some twos in the chat. If y'all still with me, if you're getting some value. All right, I see the numbers haven't really dropped, so I see y'all on here with me. Okay, bet. So let's go. All right, so we have a concept of what you really are, right? Talking about you as like a concept, not necessarily you specifically just yet. That's gonna come at the end. And we do only have about 15 minutes, so I'm gonna get through as fast as possible. Um, we've all heard mind, body, and soul, right? We've all heard the fact that all three things are connected. Already explained how the soul is a part of you that cannot change, right? The mind is the one that has access to that fourth and that fifth dimension where the thoughts are happening, that then the body, right, the third dimension is experiencing in your physical reality. right? So I don't know which one you guys think is more important, but to me, the source of everything is the soul part, right? So I asked ChatGPT a question, right? I just asked it to define these terms for me because I knew I can come up with some sort of um, explanation or definition, but this thing has access to all the information on the internet. So there's certain things that you want to trust AI with, right? So make sure you're using your tools. But the way, according to Chat GPT, and this is in accordance with a lot of the religious books, a lot of the spiritual development I've done, this is, I can confirm that this is the way it's taught, right? So the soul is considered an immortal and divine essence that exists within every individual. It is believed to be created by a higher power, and it is thought to be the eternal and unchanging part of a person, right? So what did I say? The truth is something that cannot change. Your soul is the truth. Your soul has been here forever, is going to be here forever. It's just a part of the immortal and divine essence which exists within every individual. So I know it's a lot of big words, I hope y'all with me, but that's the definition of the soul. The definition of the mind is a set of cognitive faculties and processes that allow an individual to think, perceive, feel, reason, and be conscious of their experiences and surroundings. It is the seat of thoughts, emotions, and consciousness, right? So, um, enables an individual to think, perceive, feel, reason, consciousness. These are all faculties, right? So those faculties are you're able to have those experiences and those thoughts and those perceptions because of the mind, right? So the mind is kind of like the receiver, right? The soul is the part that's connected to everything, is the truth. The mind is what's, trying to perceive the truth, or the mind is what's trying to perceive your thoughts, right? It's not like your mental development is not where it ends. That's literally where it starts, right? So that's the definition of the mind. The body is often considered the physical vessel or temporary container that houses the essence of a person's soul or spirit during their earthly experience. It is seen as a tangible and mortal aspect of a person's being, distinct from the immortal or transcendental aspects of their soul or spirit. This is according to ChatGPT. You feel me? Like, this is not just me. The body is often considered the physical vessel or the temporary container of the soul. Like, this is only the physical part and it's only temporary. We already know that the soul is going to, after we die, after this body is no longer here, our soul is still going to be around, right? Th- this is something that is very, like, this is something I think about all the time as well. So people that have reached enlightened states of being, transcendental states of being, like Buddha, for example, or Jesus Christ, people like that, um, they have talked, and not just them, but like, disciples of them, and people who follow their teachings, the ancient Egyptians as well. They talk about how um your soul, right, is going to be here forever. Obviously, we already understand that. Now, there's this place, right? There's this place of oneness. That's the highest dimension where everything is at its most purest form. I'm not talking about atoms. It's way purer than that. It's a vibration that's a lot higher than anything physical, right? So that state of consciousness is an eternal point where once you reach that consciousness, you'll stay there, right? When you enter the gates of heaven, you're staying in the gates of heaven, right? So that's an analogy for that transcendental place that you can get to, you can achieve during this lifetime, right? Now, a lot of us have to go through thousands of reincarnations. We have to go through thousands of bodies. We have to go through thousands of karmic lessons that are going to enlighten us to that point, right? So I'm a being that's been around for, thousands, maybe even millions of years, going through these series of lifetimes, learning more every single lifetime, getting my soul is kind of, reaching those higher, states. Now, when you die, if, and we're all going to die, right? That's not like anything new to you guys. When you die, right? If you're not at that, if you haven't reached that enlightened state, then you're basically going to reincarnate in another body, and you're going to start that process all over again, right? Your soul is still the same soul. So any type of like karma that you've been through, any type of enlightenment that happened during that previous lifetime, whenever you reincarnate into your new body or that new person, you're not going to remember anything, but your soul is going to be right where it's at, right? So it's the people that are able to reach that enlightenment point within their lifetime that will never die. You feel me? Like that's one of the most, I don't know how to say it, that's one of the most mind-blowing things that I feel like I've ever learned, and something I think about very often, and why one of my main goals is to reach, some sort of enlightenment. Imagine never dying. You feel me? And that's something that you can reach during this lifetime. So that way, when you do pass away, you'll still be fully aware of the whole universe. Not going to get too deep into that, but anyway, that's the soul mind body connection. These next few parts, if you guys got your copy of the presentation, then you can do a little bit more work when it comes to it. But I do have to kind of go through them a little bit faster, and these are basically models from actual books that I've read. Sheesh, you felt that? um this one here is from the four agreements, right? So there's four agreements to living an alignment, right? Or living in alignment. So be impeccable with your words, speak with integrity, say only what you mean, avoid using the word to speak against yourself or gossip. Use the power of the word in the direction of truth and love. So careful with your words. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality. When you're immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering, right? So if somebody tells me that they don't love me, it's up to myself if I'm going to take that personally, right? Maybe they don't love me because of whatever reason. Maybe they don't even love themselves, right? So why would I be offended that they don't love me? Like anything that you come across and you're perceiving in this reality, it's up to you how you take it, right? That's the main thing with these four agreements. Don't make assumptions is very important. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can and avoid misunderstanding, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. So don't assume things. Like I could be looking at some of you guys with your cameras off, and I can assume that you're not paying attention. Right? And that could hurt my feelings, and I could take it personally. And then I could start to not be so impeccable with my word and start cussing you guys out. But that's just an assumption, right? I can assume that because I don't have 100 people on this call, that whatever I'm talking about right now is not valuable, right? Those are all assumptions that I could choose to make or not to make. Always do your best. We're gonna leave it at that with the four agreements. But if you guys haven't read it, it's by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's one of the actual Mexican authors that teaches on this kind of stuff, like transcendental, meditation, higher dimensions, and all that stuff. And he learned that through the Mayans, right? So when you look at the work of the Mayans, the ancient Sumerians, the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Christianity, it all comes back to the same fundamental truths, which I wish I had more time to really get into it with y'all. This is what I was talking about earlier, and this is the Four Empires, and this is from a book called The 5 a.m. Club. This is the book that really got me into reading to begin with. And like I said, a lot of us think that focusing on our mindset is what's going to change our lives. But we have to remember that there's four empires that we have to develop. And like these four things are you, right? These four empires are literally what your experience is, right? So not only the mindset, right? We all think that reading and learning, conversation, reflection, meditation, visualization, our influence, our environments, these kinds of things, we tend to think that that's what's going to change everything. But it's a balanced four, you know what I mean? Your heart set is processing and releasing toxic emotions, healing your wounds, your emotional IQ, your gratitude. That's all dealing with the heart. It has nothing to do with the brain. The heart is just as, if not more important than your brain. I don't have a lot of, bro, I wish I had 2 hours. Your health set, your exercise, nutrition, rest and sleep, hygiene, relaxation. We all know that it's soul, mind, body, but if the physical vessel is not like picture putting a Ferrari engine on a four-cylinder car, it's only going to go as fast as the car allows it to, right? Even though like most of like what's important and most of what's really changing everything is, you know, part of the soul and even to a lesser degree the mind. If the body ain't right, good luck. Like depending on the things that you're intaking, consuming, not working out, the mind has a certain capacity to perceive things based off of how physically well it's taken care of, right? If there's a lot of fluoride in your pineal gland, good luck accessing those higher dimensions, right? If you have, a horrible diet and you're physically feeling tired all the time, good luck having enough energy to create a PowerPoint presentation and share it with people after a long workday. Like, the body's important, right? It's not separate, it's all together. And then finally, the soul set, right? Simplification, ego reduction, truth connection, understanding the shortness of life. So those four interior empires, guys, I recommend you read the book, The 5 a.m. Club, and learn a lot more about those. You hear the 5 a.m. Club and you think it's about you having to wake up early and you're probably not down, but it's a lot more to it, as you guys can see. These, man, like I could do a whole call on just these seven. I'm gonna share it with you guys. If you guys have the presentation, then you can, run back through it, or just Google this, or just ask ChatGPT, hey, what are the seven hermetic principles? So this, fam, these seven truths are older than the Bible. They're older than any sort of written language that we have. These seven truths were carved on an emerald tablet that was found and recorded a few thousand years before even like the Egyptians showed up. So people be like way before the Egyptians, the people building the pyramids, and it wasn't the pharaohs building the pyramids. It was another previous civilization. Yeah, the Emerald Tablet. Let's go. Yes, sir. We know about it. So there's actually an ancient civilization that's way older than the pharaohs, that are the ones that really brought this understanding of the universe, understanding of like farming, astrology. They came from another planet with this information. And y'all can think I'm crazy if you don't already, if I go down that, but these are truths that have been around for longer than anything that you've ever been taught, right? So, and you can see how true they are. These are the seven laws of the universe, or the seven hermetic principles. The principle of mentalism: all is mind, the universe is mental. Like I said before, um, we're all connected. We all, share a consciousness. We each have a fraction of that consciousness that's trapped in our specific body, but it's one mind. And like I said earlier, like the mental event came first before anything physical, right? Correspondence: as above, so below, as within, so without, right? A lot of things I could say about that. The principle of vibration: nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. So even um, everything, like when you look at the higher dimensions, they are physical. You can definitely consider them a physical thing. Now, picture this, right? We're in the third dimension, right? And picture like, I wish I had like a graph of it, but picture like dimension 1 through 11 on a graph, and then picture low vibration, high vibration, right? So a low vibration is something like anger, hate, fear. Those are very low vibrations, right? Something like intuition, or something like um, love, those kinds of vibrations are moving very fast. Now, us in the third dimension, we can only see things that are vibrating at the speed of light or slower. Okay. We can't perceive with these two eyes, at least. We got another one which can perceive those other ones. But with these two eyes, we can only perceive it if it's moving at the speed of light or slower, right? But thoughts have their own vibration, right? You can't see thoughts because they're not in your physical spectrum, but they are a physical thing. So everything is vibrating, even thoughts are vibrating, anything is vibrating. We're just gonna leave it at that. The principle of polarity: everything is dual, everything has poles and has its pair of opposites. Think of this. Don't just think of it as opposites, but think of it as two sides of the same thing, right? Have you ever seen a piece of bread that was only one-sided? Have you ever seen a coin that was only one-sided? It's not like it's the opposite of that. Like, look at a coin, heads and tails are not opposites. It's just two sides of the same thing, right? For example, love and hate are the same thing. There's a spectrum, right? It's not just like A and B. There's everything else in between. So point A and point B are connected by every single other emotion on that same spectrum, right? That's all it is the spectrum. So it's the same thing, right? So it's not like, oh, there's one thing and then completely separate, there's another thing. Every single thing has two sides, correlating opposites. The principle of rhythm, this is probably one of my favorite ones. The pendulum swings manifest in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Um, and I'm gonna wrap it up here pretty soon, guys. I'm gonna I'm gonna share the worksheet with you guys and just kind of explain how you can fill it out on your own. Just because I did take a little bit longer than I thought, but man, I feel like I'm just like cutting it short even. Like I'm not even halfway into what I want to say. But everything is a pendulum, fam. So like in the middle is like the perfect alignment, right? Let's just say to the left is happiness and to the right is unhappiness, right? So the pendulum means that everything's back and forth, right? Let's just say this is pure alignment. To the left is motivation, and to the right is like, bro, I feel like shit. I don't want to do anything but stay in bed today, right? You got to understand that that pendulum is going to swing both ways, right? There's some days you're going to be more motivated than others. There's some days you're going to feel like complete shit, but it's always about you're not going to stay fully motivated and you're not going to stay over here where you just want to stay in bed. As long as you realize that it's you're always swinging back and forth, the more in alignment you can get, the less to the right or the left you're going to go. You feel me? So the more aligned you are, the more in the center you are, the happier, the more fulfilled you're going to be. If you're really extremely happy, think about it, right? When you push a pendulum to the left, as far as you push it to the left is as far as it's going to go to the right. So that's why in trading they say, don't try not to, live in fear or live in greed when it comes to trading. You want to be just a mechanical, perfectly aligned trader, right? Because the happier you get whenever you win $1,000, the sadder you're going to be whenever it goes the other way. So that's the principle of rhythm. That's very important. Cause and effect, very self-explanatory, right? Every cause has its effect. The most important cause and effect to me is the is that mental event that created the physical universe that we see today, right? The cause was the mental effect and the mental happening, and then the effect was the physical manifestation that we're seeing. The principle of gender, gender is everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles, and I could do a whole training on just that. Um, Same thing with you. You're on a spectrum, right? I mean, there's the most masculine person you ever met, and then there's the most feminine woman you've ever met. You're somewhere in that, right? So you have masculine and you have feminine traits. For my men on here, sometimes you hear like a feminine trait, and you like the videos on YouTube you're watching already programmed you to kind of think of it as a negative thing. You want to be an alpha male, you want to be, fucking Alex or Mosey or whatever it is, and you don't realize that the feminine aspect of you is your creativity, is your love for other people, is your understanding, is your ability to be like think of the feminine side as the part of you that's flowing and that's just open, and you know just think love and creativity and all those things are feminine aspects. The masculine aspect is a very rigid thing. The masculine is going after your goals, setting a system, right? So I hope everybody has at least a good balance of both, right? There's women on here that are very masculine in a way that they go out and get it more than a lot of guys that I know. And there's, for example, me, I'm a very creative person, right? So I understand that's a feminine trait, but this has nothing to do with like sexual preferences, orientation. Like, just understand, right? Everything like this water bottle is very masculine because it's solid, right? It's a solid water bottle. It's a physical thing that's going to be hard to break, but it also has an inside where I could put water in it. The inside part of it is its feminine nature, right? So everything's masculine and feminine. Don't get caught up in and whatever's going on YouTube these days. Um, you guys are gonna have to look these up. The seven spiritual laws of success. Oh, by the way, this is from the seven principles are from uh the Emerald Tablet is like its original source, which is not a book, by the way. It's an actual carving made out of a piece of emerald, which is pretty amazing. The seven spiritual laws of success is a book, and it lists the four laws, right? The law of pure potentiality. If you have the desire, you have the ability to manifest that desire. The law of least effort. Bro, I wish I had more time, man. We're gonna have to do a part two. The law of detachment, the law of giving, law of karma, the law of intention and desire are all very important, all very worth working on in order for you to, yes, ma'am, let's get it. We'll definitely run it up in 2024 and get into a lot more detail. And I know we have this next call, which is about to start. I'm gonna wrap it up here in the next 2 minutes. But The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success is a book by Deepak Chopra, which is I believe he's Indian, and he's a very enlightened being. I've read a few of his books, and this is a short book. Like I literally read it within like an hour and a half. And I do recommend it if you guys want to start to read more in 2024. The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, and if you're interested in the kind of things that I've been talking about, the Seven Spiritual Laws of Success is like a good entry into that. Now, I didn't have time to go through this with you guys, but if you go ahead and grab the presentation, it's going to come with this as well, and it's going to help you fill this out, right? So it's going to help you fill out a vision, a purpose, and a legacy, some ventures that you want to get into 2024, some core values for you that you can build a brand around, some milestones that you want to hit this year, effective actions, and then some interest. Right now, with the original PowerPoint, I basically broke it down in a way where, let me just find it real quick. Yeah, like if we didn't have this amazing call coming up here in the next few minutes, I wouldn't mind just keep going, and whoever wants to stay on can stay on. But we have a pretty dope call that's going to be a follow-up to this here. But for every one of these topics here on the worksheet, like for example, vision, right? If you look over here, it kind of guides you, and this is through that same presentation where where I was kind of going through a few minutes ago, but it'll kind of guide you like what is the most fulfilling reality for you, right? Use your higher faculties of imagination to envision and detail that person in reality. Use your five senses to physically place yourself in that reality in the present moment. Feel what it is like to be that person and be grateful for already having to achieve that reality. So this is kind of like a guided, you can use it as a meditation. I know, for example, like Nano uses this same type of model when he talks about his morning meditations. But this will kind of help guide you as far as like what to put on paper, and then use that to be able to kind of solidify your vision, right? Obviously, purpose and legacy. Purpose is what you feel like you're on this earth for, and then legacy is what you feel like you want to be remembered for, right? So very distinct, two very separate things, both very worth knowing if you plan on accomplishing, first of all, your purpose, or if you plan on, being remembered during this lifetime. You're going to want to be aware of what that is, and you're going to want to come over here and list those things, right? So ventures, list 3 projects, business endeavors that you want to get into, place them in order for most important. The core 4 is something I learned from Alex Morton that helps you build a brand for yourself. So if you list 4 subjects, like for example, myself, when I did this back at the end of 2022, was these are 4 things that you find important enough to be able, like, let's just say you were to create a social media brand if you don't have it already, or if you have it already, how to kind of structure it. So if I pick 4 things that I feel like are important to me enough to where I want to be an expert in that field. So I wrote, for example, truth, purpose, wealth, and wisdom, right? So those are 4 things that I spend the majority of my time kind of thinking of, right? And if I'm naturally wanting to evolve in those type of things, then those are things that I can use to build a brand. So with the last 2, wealth and wisdom, I created one brand on Instagram where I share my trading stuff. I'll share, quotes, and I have a lot of things coming in 2024 to that. But that came from the core 4, is understanding the 4 major things that you want to be an expert at and want to be a voice, right? For example, on social media. And then you can build either 4 separate brands, or like, for example, wealth and wisdom was taking 2 of them and creating one brand. And then on my personal, I'll talk about, truth and purpose. Or you can create 4 separate brands. Like, I don't recommend you doing that, but just to kind of give you an idea. 4 milestones, 5 milestones you want to accomplish next year, 6 effective actions that are going to take you there, and then 7 interests. So I'm going to end it with this and saying that list 7, like when you get down here and at the end of it, it's going to have you list 7 topics and things that you're generally interested in learning about. Nothing to do with money, nothing to do with goals. So for example, for me is like crazy shit is like, um, for example, like history, right? Spirituality. I want to learn about like astronomy, just things like that. Like things that if no money was involved and if you were rich and you had all the time in the world and everything you ever wanted, what would interest you enough for you to actually spend your time reading a book on that subject? So it's very important to list 7 things that you are truly interested in besides money or goals or anything like that. And that might help you kind of understand what kind of goals you should be chasing. Right. So that's all the time I have, family. It is 10 minutes over where I planned on stopping, but I feel like it was probably more information than was really, you know, like digestible on one call. So I had fun doing it. I can definitely do a lot more of these if you guys are interested in these kinds of things. Reach out to me personally. I love talking about this shit. Like if there's one thing I love talking about is this kind of stuff. So, if anybody, wants to have that conversation, or if you guys want me to do more of these trainings and get into a little bit more detail when it's a little bit less rushed, then let me know and we can definitely make it happen. But with that being said, fam, um, this next call is for thank you guys. I definitely appreciate you guys very much. This next call that just started right now is Vision for 2024, and it's Mike Nav and Junior, right? So that one is for the community only. If you guys are in the Powerhouse community, then you have access to the call. Go ahead and hop on that as soon as this gets done, because you already know these two people, right? This is just me speaking from a level where I'm at with you guys, right? These are people that have the results we want. And I'm excited to see where they take this call and kind of how they are preparing for 2024, how, what things they find important and that kind of thing. So mine was kind of like an introduction to some very out of pocket things. Man, I definitely wish I had more time. Like I feel like I have so much to say, but that's just an intro. We'll definitely run it up and chop it up again like this. Go ahead and hop onto that 2024 vision call. Have an amazing rest of your week. Have an amazing 2024, and I'll be with you guys on Sundays to get this money. Um, I'll see you guys not this Sunday because it's obviously New Year's Eve. So I'll see you guys the following Sunday. But I appreciate you guys one more time. I did record it, so I'll put it up on YouTube if anybody's interested. And then go ahead and grab the presentation and the worksheet so you guys can fill this out. It's important. I didn't do it for me. I promise you guys that. So thank you guys so much. Have an amazing night, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.